All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to week number 3. That is right, week number 3 of your summer reference class, which is 7314. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. J.S.K. Austin, and we will do a state of the course update, and then I will tell you this week about a legal form database that you all should be familiar with. It will be available probably in a lot of your public libraries, but I don't believe this is accessible through the University of Missouri's library. However, one thing that I will say now that I've said that, the one thing that I will say is that even though this is going to be a quote-unquote Missouri legal forms database, there are, I believe for all 50 states, Gale produces the same database. So even if you are not in Missouri, you should be able to access something similar at your public library. And if you don't know how to access it or how to get there, then what I suggest you do is contact your local public library and ask. But first, let's do that state of the course update, and from there we can get rolling on some other things. So let's get to it. State of the course. All right, so first things first with the state of the course update. The main thing that I want to convey to you all is that, yes, you do have 2 assignments coming due this week, this Sunday night, and those are going to be your week number 3 discussion and your virtual reference practice and paper. So this is a partnered assignment, the virtual reference practice and paper. So if you have not gotten up with your partner, you need to go ahead and do so now. It is crunch time. Again, you have to get this done by Sunday. So you need to go ahead and get this thing scheduled. You need to interact with your partner, and you need to submit all the materials, including your write-up, by Sunday night. So again, if you have spoken to you all previously about getting up with your partners, if you have not done that, then please go ahead and do so. And then our discussion this week is related to empathy. So discussion number 3, empathy, due on June the 26th. And remember, you need to both have your own post and respond to a classmate. Now, if you're having problems actually keeping up with what you do in what weeks, it actually should be helpful to look at the module in the syllabus, because the information is right there. So in the modules, again, you're doing, in summer school, we have 8 weeks together instead of 16 weeks together. So yes, you will do 2 modules or 2 weeks every week. So week number 1 and week number 2 are, they were due on the first week. June 6th, as you saw, was the beginning date. This week starting on June the 21st, because June the 20th is recognized as a holiday, Juneteenth. So June 21st is when this is all starting. You will see you are responsible for weeks 5 and 6. Again, these modules are labeled, so you should see it right there. And then when it comes to the syllabus, we have the same type of action going on. So if you go down the syllabus, first of all, if you're trying to keep track of assignment due dates, you have a table here, and the table has the assignment due dates. And then when you scroll down, you will see, here we go, weeks 5 and week 6 are both on June 21st through June the 26th. All right, so you've got that going on there. If there are any questions, reach out to me. There have been some materials that we lost access to, and there may be also some things that we just have new updated permalinks for, or something of that nature. But as you are unable to access things, just let me know and I'll work on that and try to find alternative methods to access or alternative reading assignments. So there you go right there. I look forward to getting your week 3 discussions and your virtual reference practice papers on Sunday nights. And I am going to remind you all as well that the virtual reference assignment does need to be done in APA style. I will be checking and grading for correct format. If you are unsure about format, you should look at the Purdue OWL, and then also the video that I recorded last week might be helpful for you as well, because I will be taking off points specifically, especially for the 2 common errors that I talk about in that video that students will still often make. So make sure you avoid making those errors and just get your formatting for APA correct. Finally, I do want to say that everybody seems to be, for the most part, people are turning in their assignments on time. Now, discussions, I've had some that were a little late, and try to stay up on that. But as far as turning in assignments, so far so good. Everyone got their syllabus quiz done in time, and most of you, almost everybody, got their unassignment done in time. So just keep making sure that you get the assignments done in time, but also if you've been a little slack with getting the syllabus, not syllabus, getting the discussions done in time, make sure you go ahead and get those things done in time as well. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at the legal forms database. Give me one moment. All right, so let's talk about some legal forms in the legal form database. So one thing that I do want to make sure that I say right off the bat is that what I do with these for my reference classes, what I do when I tour these databases a little bit is I am basically giving a very superficial introduction. This is not an actual tutorial on the database. Now, the reason why I do this is because it does get people aware of some of the databases that are out there and what they do. And unfortunately, because I do a whole lot of these, I have one for each week. During the regular 15-week sessions, but when I do one a week during the summer, you get half as many resources because I don't do twice as many videos. So, having said that, we are going to learn about a few of the databases that we learn about during the 15-week sessions in the spring and the fall, but we're not going to have time to get to all of them. However, the ones that we are going to talk about are ones that tend to be interesting and tend to be the ones that either get high use or are ones that my students tend to know the least about and not know that they exist and that sort of thing. So once I introduce the database to you and let you know a few of its basic functions and when you would use it and why you would use it, from there, if you want to master the database, what I suggest you do is either we'll do two things. You can watch some tutorial videos, and there are tutorial videos for any database that I show you on YouTube, and then also usually on the vendor's site. So, for instance, if you wanted a JSTOR tutorial, I believe that if you go to JSTOR, you can get a JSTOR tutorial actually in the JSTOR database. Okay. And then the second thing to do after you have accessed a tutorial or several tutorials and looked at them is you can also get practice by accessing the database itself and going in there and working around with it, seeing what it does and that sort of thing. And that's helpful to do in order to actually train yourself, because a lot of what you're going to be doing in libraries with databases and so forth is going to be self-training. Okay. Oh, by the way, this is worth a mention as well. So your database unassignments, those were just due last night. I'm recording this on June the 20th, so they were just due last night on June the 19th. And what I would say about the the unassignment, the quote unquote database assignment that you all had is that you probably want to go ahead and review the work. And I mentioned this last week, but you probably want to go ahead and review the work that your classmates did. And that's also a good way to learn what the databases do, what subjects they cover, and then also questions that would be answered through that database. Okay, so that's why the unassignment is actually an assignment that is in discussion board format, is so that you can look at the work that your classmates did and learn about all the various databases. And I do recommend y'all do that in order to, just start brushing up and start really learning and acquainting yourselves with the types of resources that libraries offer these days. So yeah, well, and these are mostly academic library resources because I made sure I chose things that would be available mostly through the University of Missouri so that everybody would be able to access it no problem. I wish I could do something like that with public library resources, but that's just, at the moment, it's not feasible. Okay. All right, let's go to the legal forms database, and I'm actually going to use Mid-Continent Public Library's website. Mid-Continent is a library system in Metro Kansas City. It actually is the library system that serves me where I live. And so I am at their homepage, and I've already gone to usually when you're trying to find this particular database, every public library has a different looking interface, but if they have legal or government resources, then specifically legal resources really, then that's where you will find your legal forms database. And like I said, you will find a legal forms database for most states, if not all. And as you can see, I've got Missouri legal forms here. So This gives you a little description here. This resource provides an online library of legal forms for a variety of needs, including bankruptcy, bill of sale, contracts, divorce, employment, corporate, landlord, tenant, living wills, name change, power of attorney, real estate, taxes, last will and testament, and many more. So let's go ahead and take a look. First, I'm going to have to put my number in. Okay, and so once you put your number in, you're going to be brought to a home page that kind of looks like this. All right. I'm having all sorts of fun with this right now. Okay, let's get back where we were trying to go. Okay, so once you enter the Gale Legal Forms database, you're going to get a home page that looks kind of like this. And there are basically two main ways or primary ways to search this legal forms database, and those ways are either by browsing or by freeform searching. So when you browse, and browsing can be very useful for a lot of different topics. In fact, I prefer to browse to look for legal forms for a lot of these different types of categories. Now, again, your most common things are over here, and even in my personal librarian experience, yeah, I was doing divorce, real estate, landlord, tenant more than anything else, and then some of these other things popped in here and there, but those were the three that I was doing more than anything else. And then there were some categories that I needed that were not main categories, but you would find those, I mean, that were not the most popular categories, but they were still within the main categories, and you will find those things here. So family law is always big. Family law will include like custody and those sorts of things. Liens, we got those every now and then. Contracts, would do quite a few of those. So if you want to browse, and let's try to start out with browsing on, let's do actually some landlord tenant. That might be the easiest thing to see. So we are now in Missouri Legal Forms category for landlord tenant, and you get these breakdowns here. So you can go into any of these breakdowns, and let's say that we were looking at apartments and we wanted to actually, let's not look at apartments. Let's scroll down and let's look at evictions. Okay, so let's say we went to notices and letters and we needed to give a landlord a sample eviction notice. All right, so what you can do, you can click that category, and then what we have here are two options within the Missouri Legal Forms. Now, again, this is going to vary depending on your state. You may have more or less options in a different type of organization and categorization of your forms depending on your state. But here, these are actually, by the way, if you see US, then it's actually more so the same form that they're kind of using nationwide as opposed to a Missouri-specific form. But, so we have a 3-day notice to perform, 3-day notice to pay rent or surrender possessions of premises, vacate, pass rent due. Let's say we wanted to do this one. So what you could do is first you can actually click the link on the form and the link to the form, and that will bring you here. And one thing that you will get when you get here is a little description, and the description will be very helpful in telling you whether or not this is actually the form you want to use. So this form is a generic notice that may be referred to when people are preparing a notice to recover back rent or possession of the leased premises from the tenant. And then you can get your little preview here. And what you do with this is you basically just fill in the blanks. So you see this here, and then let's say you did want to go with this. What you can do is you can actually download. And because I use Word, I'm going to download into Word. And all right, so here we go here. And we have if we enable editing, then what we have is we have, again, you can fill in these blanks here. I could put my name there and then my address, and then, you know, add in the values here that are needed, and, you know, fill all of that out. Wherever they're blanks, you fill them in with the information that's needed. And the patron that needs this form, they're going to know what information to put in the blanks typically. And then you sign, and once you sign, this becomes a legal notice. So that's pretty much how it works. It's as simple as that. And so that was the form that you would use. for that endeavor, that would be the form that you would use, but that's a form that would be used nationwide, and that's why I had the U.S. So the reason I mention that is because if you had something else, that there are some things that will be state specific, and so those things will be very, very different depending on what state you're accessing a legal forms database from. So let's say we did bills of sale, and bill of sale for automobiles, that's definitely something that's going to vary from state to state. And as you can see, yes, and you see that here. So like in that previous screen where we had the US thing going on, here we do have some things that start with Mo as opposed to US. So these are specifically for the state of Missouri. So let's say that you were selling a car, and so you needed the bill of sale here. So bill of sale of automobile and odometer statement for Missouri. You can actually just click that. Again, you get this description here. You get a preview, and if you have some questions about exactly what a bill of sale is, then you can click your definitions, your related definitions tab if it's available. And once you've done that, yes, you can go to Word if you need this document. And bada bing, you can enable editing, and again, you can fill in these things: state of Missouri, county of Jackson, and so forth and so on. And once the two parties have signed and a notary has done their job, this actually becomes a legal binding document. So that's the great thing about this, is that these legal forms that you pull off, they can be forms, as long as they have the appropriate signatures and everything else, they can be forms that are enforceable in a court of law. So that's another great thing about them. And so that's how you would browse with this database. Now let's talk about searching. So basically, if you wanted to do a search, like let's say somebody came in and they did know specifically that they wanted some sort of, let's say, a contract for doing wedding photography, because that's one of the easier ones to find. What you can do is you can just do the freeform search. And here you go, agreement for wedding photography services. And then you can, again, download this guy. And there you are. And again, you fill in the blanks you and your photographer would sign. And once you both sign, this becomes a legally binding agreement that you can go to court for if somebody is not compliant with the agreement, and so forth and so on. And there are a lot of things that you can search in this manner. So I believe like rendering music and DJ services are there, various contracts there, consent, things of that nature. So you can put in some things, and you can put in some terms, and you can get a lot of various returns. And so this is good. Again, this is good when people are trying to look for contracts or sample contracts. This is good for when people are trying to handle their own divorces or paternity, or there are some resources for taxes and things like that here. And so again, this is really good, and it's a way to actually have something that, because one thing a lawyer can usually do is pick apart terms that are unclear or confusing or that sort of thing within a legally binding document. So the reason I would use this is because this is basically lawyer approved. All you have to do is fill in the blanks, but you're not with these documents that you're going to have on the Gale legal forms. These are not going to include language that a lawyer would be able to get the case thrown out of court because the language is unclear or ambiguous or anything like that. So yes, this is very useful for trying to actually keep yourself out of court, but then if you go to court, it can be also very useful for protecting your behind when you're in court. So if you want to learn more about this, just explore it. If you're outside of the state of Missouri, contact your local library and ask them if they have a Gale Legal Forms database for your library. If they do, then, or for your state. And if they do, then you can go ahead and ask them how to access that through the local library. And from there, you can try to get some practice and get used to and get comfortable with this database. So I'm going to leave it right there. That's pretty much all we need to know at this point. And I'm going to try to keep this under 20 minutes. So I am Dr. Jace, and please race the races. That's the only way you can potentially win. I'll see you next week.